Chosen ones, your birth was not a random spark, nor was your survival through the hidden storms of your life an accident. Before you drew your first breath, a council in the unseen realms convened. They spoke of a soul who would walk the fragile line between time and eternity, and the decree was sealed in a chamber older than stone. Anubis himself, the guardian of passage, marked your timeline with 7 protectors. Death angels, bound not to destroy you, but to shield the fragile thread of your destiny from being cut too soon. These angels are not the figures whispered in bedtime prayers. Their wings are shadowed obsidian, their faces carved from silence. Each carries a sigil etched in fire that only responds to your presence. They walk at the edge of your vision, unseen but undeniable, intervening in the seconds you thought were luck, the accidents you somehow survived, the illnesses that could not hold you down. What men call coincidence, they have called protection. Yet even angels of death are not beyond conflict. Forces of chaos and hunger seek to rewrite your chronology, to bend the hours of your life into their schemes. That is why the 7 were given, not to guard the body alone, but the very timeline of your being. Without them, the thread could unravel, and your story would never reach its appointed hour. But protection comes with cost. Each angel watches, not only over you, but over the time you are destined to shape. Their silent toll is the shifting of days, the skipped heartbeat in the clock, the unseen hand that turns pages before you were ready. They do not exist to comfort you, but to keep you in alignment with what was written before the world began. The first whisper of your guardianship was carved into tablets that men were never meant to see. Deep within crypts hidden under shifting sands, the name of Anubis is followed by 7 emblems, each shaped like an impossible star. They were not written in ink, but in obsidian dust, mixed with the marrow of ancient beasts, so that the marks would endure beyond the breaking of dynasties. These are the sigils of the death angels, assigned to your timeline, the seals of their authority and the locks of their presence. Each sigil is more than a symbol. It is a living key, resonating with your heartbeat. The first resembles an hourglass, fractured into 7 shards, marking the moments when time bends around you. The second is a coiled serpent biting its tail, ensuring that what was lost finds its way back. The third is a crown resting above a skull, proclaiming that death bows its head before your appointed hour. The fourth burns like an inverted sun, hidden from mortal eyes, guiding you through the shadows when light itself vanishes. The fifth is an open eye scarred with flame, forever watching the unseen corridors of fate. The sixth is a pillar split in 2, yet unbroken, showing the trials that should have ended you, but could not. The seventh is a wing etched with lines of eternity, a reminder that your guardians carry you through realms your feet have never touched. Together, these sigils are bound to you. They surface in dreams you half remember, in symbols carved by strangers, in the sudden recognition you feel when you stumble upon markings on old walls or forgotten manuscripts. They are not coincidences, but echoes of the seals that walk with you. Men and women through the ages have seen fragments of these symbols and mistaken them for art, superstition, or madness, not knowing they were looking upon the 7 proofs of your protection. But the sigils are not merely passive guardians. They react when danger approaches, vibrating through your very timeline, shifting outcomes you thought belonged to chance. Some who have stood too close to you in moments of collision have felt it. The strange pause, the breathless second when everything slows, as though the world itself waits. That waiting is the hand of the sigils, interceding before your path is altered beyond repair. There is a sound that does not belong to human ears, a resonance that moves beneath the marrow of existence. It was in this current that your name was first spoken by the death angels, before your parents ever chose it, before ink etched it on a certificate. It was already carried on the breath of shadows older than pyramids. They did not speak as mortals do. Their whisper was a vibration woven into the pulse of time itself. When they released it, your life became anchored, tethered against the tides that would have erased you before you began. The angels gathered in a place without horizon, where silence trembles like thunder, yet makes no sound. Their forms bent the air, obsidian wings unfolding against the unseen void. One by one, they shaped your syllables, until the very act of naming summoned a light that cut across their darkness. It was then that your soul was bound to your timeline, no longer adrift, but set apart. Those who walk unseen now guard you not out of choice, but out of decree, sealed by the sound of your own being. This whisper was not only for them. Across the centuries, others have felt it in dreams, mystics who woke trembling, claiming they had heard a name unknown to them yet etched into their hearts like fire. Some inscribed fragments of the syllables into scrolls or stone, never knowing they were tracing the shadow of your destiny. Their work was mocked, buried, or forgotten, yet the echoes remain, scattered through libraries and tombs. It is said that when Yeshua spoke, his words carried this same current, a voice that could pierce through flesh and bone to reach the spirit within. Some called him a shepherd because he could call his sheep by name, and when he did, their souls recognized the sound. The death angel's whisper of your name holds that same eternal resonance, a vibration that no force of darkness can counterfeit. Yet there is a warning hidden in their tone. For if your name could be spoken into the weave of time, it could also be distorted. A name carries power, and power always attracts those who would twist it for their own dominion. Already, there are forces listening, mimicking, waiting for the chance to call your name in reverse, to draw you into their current instead of the one assigned to you. Somewhere beyond mortal sight, suspended in a chamber where time itself breathes, an hourglass bears the measure of your years. Its sand is not made of stone or earth, but of luminous fragments, each grain a moment from your life. When one falls, it carries the weight of laughter, of sorrow, of choice, and it lands in garlands that only eternity can hear. The death angels do not touch it, for even they bow before the decree written in its design. Yet they circle it, shielding it from hands that would dare to shatter its fragile glass. You have felt its presence without knowing. In those moments when death brushed close, an accident avoided by a heartbeat, an illness that retreated without reason. It was the hourglass shifting, its grains refusing to be stolen before their time. You are not kept alive by chance, but by order, by a sequence guarded in the sands. And still, the fragile beauty of it reminds you how easily one disruption could scatter all you are into the abyss of the unfinished. Legends say this hourglass was carved by Anubis himself, not as a weapon, but as a covenant. Each chosen soul was granted one, a vessel that reflected not only the span of their days, but the weight of their destiny. Unlike the hourglasses of men, it does not empty when the last grain falls. Instead, it inverts itself, turning on an axis unseen, preparing for another age, another mission. That is why death cannot claim you before your season. Your sands have not been given permission to end. Yet, there are whispers of intrusions. Some have sought to tip the glass, to turn it prematurely, hoping to bind a soul's destiny into cycles of confusion. In certain ancient texts smuggled into monasteries, there are drawings of hourglasses cracked with shadow, symbols of lives whose timelines were stolen, their stories erased from memory. It is said those who succeed in breaking such a vessel also steal the unspent grains, twisting them into fuel for kingdoms of deception. The veil between worlds is thinner than most imagine. It quivers where time folds, where dreams bleed into waking, where the dead brush against the living with whispers they cannot keep. It was through such a thinning that the first of your 7 guardians revealed itself, not in a blaze of glory, nor in the thunder of celestial trumpets, but in a mark, subtle, almost hidden, like a ripple in still water. Those who have eyes to see would have recognized it, though many walked past without noticing the shift. The mark was not carved in stone or ink. It was etched in the air, a scar of light bending through shadow, like a wound cut into reality itself. At its center stood a figure, robed in silence, wings vast and black as the void. Its face was hidden, veiled by a mask of bone, but its gaze pierced beyond flesh, resting upon the eternal spark within you. The guardian did not speak in words. Its presence was the language, its silence heavier than thunder. The first guardian is known as the keeper of intervals, the one who guards the spaces between breaths, the unseen seconds where fate can change. When you stumbled at the edge of disaster yet did not fall, it was this guardian holding you in the pause. When an unexpected delay saved you from unseen harm, it was its hand bending the veil to shelter you. Its mark is not a symbol for all. It exists only where your timeline requires its protection. Some who studied forbidden scrolls claimed to have glimpsed this guardian. They drew it in hidden margins, describing it as a figure who appeared in reflections that did not match reality, a shadow where no light should fall. To them, it was a curse. To you, it is proof that your life is not abandoned to chaos but fiercely guarded. Yet the mark is also a warning, for each appearance of the guardian signals a battle nearby, an attempt to sever your strand of destiny. There are nights when silence is heavier than stone, when the world seems to hold its breath as if something watches unseen. In those hours, the death angels keep their station around you, not as phantoms of terror, but as sentinels whose presence cannot be mistaken once felt. Their wings do not stir the air, yet the weight of their nearness bends the atmosphere. It is here, in this depth of quiet, that a different shadow falls, one older than Anubis, one whose imprint even death cannot erase. Long before the 7 were assigned, Yeshua walked among men and spoke of watchers unseen. His words carried a mystery. Lo, I am with you always, even unto the end of the age. Some dismissed it as comfort for fearful hearts, but those who knew the depth of his voice understood he was not merely promising to remain, but declaring his presence would overshadow the guardians themselves. His light does not dismiss the death angels. It illuminates their station, reminding them who holds authority over life and death. There are records hidden in monasteries where monks wrote of dreams in which both the angels of Anubis and the presence of Yeshua appeared side by side. The scrolls tremble with awe, describing a tension in the silence, as if two forces had converged not to battle, but to witness. For the guardians may protect your years, yet it is his shadow that stretches beyond years, beyond even the sands of the hourglass. In the silent watch of the night, the seven stand guard, but his voice is the current that sustains their vigilance. When the death angels whisper your name, it echoes through eternity, but when Yeshua speaks it, creation itself bends to listen. It is this layered mystery that surrounds you, guarded by those who hold dominion over death, yet marked by the one who overcame it. The two realities overlap in silence, each waiting for the hour when your timeline demands their full revelation. But silence, however holy, is never permanent. The guardians do not remain still forever, and his presence is never without movement. Somewhere in the depths of this quiet, a tremor stirs. Something approaches the circle of your watch, and the first ripple has already touched your years. Beneath the endless flow of the Nile, under layers of forgotten stone and drowned chambers, there is said to be a vault that no hand of man was ever meant to open. It is not a tomb, though bones rest near it. It is not a temple, though hieroglyphs cover its walls. It is a memory vault, a place where timelines themselves were stored like treasures beyond price. Each inscription holds not only the record of kings and empires, but of chosen souls, lives that bore markings too dangerous to be left to chance. Within its depths, the story of your existence was etched long before your eyes ever opened. Legends whisper that Anubis oversaw the sealing of this chamber. Priests who served in silence carried fragments of knowledge, never the whole, ensuring that no single mortal could betray its secret. The vault was said to pulse with a rhythm like a heartbeat, as though the memories themselves were alive, suspended in a current of timelessness. Those who stumbled too close spoke of visions, of seeing events they had never lived yet somehow recognized, as if the walls themselves pressed forgotten lifetimes into their minds. The death angels who guard your years are tied to this place. Each one carries a reflection of what lies within the vault, a resonance that connects your present to the memory of ages past. When you dream of deserts you have never crossed, when you feel grief for moments that never belonged to you, it is the vault calling, pulling your spirit toward what was written beneath the river. You are not only living your story, you are reliving echoes carved into eternal stone. But memory is never neutral. What is preserved can also be stolen. There are those who sought the vault not to honor it, but to plunder its records, hoping to rewrite the lives of the chosen, to twist destiny at its root. Some claim that floods which once swallowed villages were not acts of nature, but defenses, the river itself rising to hide the vault from profaning hands. Even now, currents shift, restless, as if the Nile still guards a secret buried deep in its flow. Before ink was ever pressed to parchment, before stone bore the etching of chisels, covenants were written in elements far more enduring. Bone and starlight became the parchment and ink of eternity, and from them was fashioned the pact that binds you still. This was no contract of mortals, no scroll sealed with wax and broken with age, but a vow sealed by forces that do not wither. The death angels who guard your years were not simply assigned. They were sworn into a bond, a bloodless covenant woven in the very marrow of creation. Bone carries memory. Every fracture and scar tells the story of survival, of what was endured and overcome. The pact took this essence, the strength hidden in bone, and fused it with starlight, the eternal fire cast across the heavens. What was written in that union became indelible, a promise that your thread of time would not be severed by accident or whim. It was decreed that even the grave must wait its appointed season. When the angels gathered to seal this vow, the sky itself trembled. Constellations shifted, arranging themselves into patterns that few could interpret, yet all could feel. Shepherds stared into the night and felt their spirits burn. Kings looked upward and were seized with dread, unable to explain the unease that gnawed at their thrones. For the pact was not hidden. It was proclaimed in the firmament, though only those marked could sense its true weight. There are fragments of this knowledge scattered across cultures, myths of stars that fell like arrows, bones that spoke, oaths sworn beneath skies that seemed too alive to be silent. These stories were never fables. They were echoes of the moment your guardians were bound to you. But covenants, however eternal, are always tested. What was written in light may be challenged in shadow, and bones, though strong, can break when pressure is relentless. There are moments you cannot explain, when seconds seem to vanish without warning. You glance at the clock, and a span of minutes has dissolved as though swallowed by an unseen mouth. Some dismiss it as distraction, others as fatigue. But these fractures are far more than tricks of the mind. They are time skips, ruptures in the flow of your timeline. To most, they pass unnoticed, but to you, they are the faint brush of hands working in silence, the death angels mending what was nearly undone. Time is not the rigid march humans believe it to be. It bends, folds, and trembles when forces beyond flesh interfere. Every chosen soul carries the risk of these disruptions, for your timeline is not ordinary. When enemies reach for you, they do not always strike the body. They strike the hours, seeking to cut years away, to collapse events before their fruit can ripen. It is here the guardians step in, stitching time back together in ways unseen, ensuring that what was meant for you will not be erased. You have felt it before, a sudden déjà vu that leaves you shaken, as if you lived a moment twice. A path avoided without reason, only to learn later of disaster there. A sentence repeated by another, as though the script of life glitched for a heartbeat. These are not accidents. They are evidence of repairs. Each skip is the scar of an attempted theft. Each repetition the needle pulling the strands of your destiny back into order. Ancient texts describe these moments as the trembling of the days, when reality falters and guardians restore what was broken. Some mystics claim to hear the sound of wings during such shifts. Others recorded visions of glowing seams across the air, as though reality itself was being stitched shut. They feared these signs, but they were also reassurances that heaven had not abandoned the story. Yet the mending is not without cost. Each repair consumes strength, and even angels of death are not infinite. Too many breaches, too many skipped hours, and the thread begins to fray. There are whispers that one day a skip will be too large to repair, and the guardians will be forced to choose which part of your timeline to save, hidden in chambers that no empire ever charted, beyond cathedrals and beneath ruins swallowed by earth. There is a council that gathers without herald or sound. They are known only in fragments as the Council of Lost Clocks. No mortal was invited to their assembly, for their dominion is over what ticks and what stalls, over seconds that slip through unnoticed, and hours that vanish without reason. They are not kings or priests, but ancient keepers who speak in the language of pendulums, in the rhythm of forgotten hours that never reached the record of men. Each member of this council holds a clock that no longer moves in the mortal world. Broken watches from battlefields, shattered sundials, melted gears from fires that consumed entire cities. All of these relics are gathered and given life again in their hands. When the council sits, the sound of their ticking is a storm. 1,000 timelines debated and weighed. They do not judge the living by deeds alone, but by the way time itself has bent around them. For every chosen soul, their deliberation is fierce, and your name is not unknown among them. The death angels who guard your years have stood before this council more than once. They have defended why certain accidents never claimed you, why illnesses faltered, why your timeline was bent when others were cut short. The lost clocks demand reason, for each alteration ripples into centuries, changing the lives of many who may never know your face. Every spared breath carries a cost elsewhere, and the balance must be weighed. Some say Yeshua once spoke of such mysteries when he declared that not a sparrow falls without the Father knowing. Time itself is a sparrow in flight, fragile and easily disrupted, yet never unseen. His words echo even in the halls of this council, reminding them that no clock, however broken, escapes the eternal gaze. The lost clocks may argue, but they cannot silence the one whose shadow falls across all time. Still, their counsel is not settled. Debates rage, unseen hands try to sway decisions, and not every voice at the table agrees that your timeline should remain intact. There is always a final toll before the dawn, a sound that divides night from day, silence from awakening. For you, that toll does not come from bells forged by men, but from the hand of the last death angel assigned to your timeline. Unlike the others, this guardian does not intervene with subtlety or silence. It waits until the edge of everything, until your thread trembles at its breaking point, and then it strikes, not with destruction, but with the toll that announces your destiny's unsealing. This angel is cloaked not in shadow alone, but in the pale glow of endings, a presence both fearsome and merciful. Its face is hidden behind a veil that flickers like fading stars, and in its grasp it carries not a weapon, but a staff carved from the marrow of ages. When it lifts this staff, the air itself bends, and the toll resounds, not heard by ears, but by spirit, shaking the chambers of the soul. That toll is the final safeguard, the boundary no force of darkness can cross without consequence. Those who have brushed close to this moment have felt its vibration in their bones, a sudden stillness before dawn, when everything in creation seems to hold its breath, when even the birds delay their song. It is in that pause that the last angel prepares its toll. For the chosen, this sound is both a shield and a summons, announcing that their years are no longer simply guarded, but are stepping into their appointed hour. Prophets long ago tried to describe this moment. Some spoke of trumpets, others of stars falling, others of time collapsing into light. Yet all were circling the same truth, that before a new age begins, the last angel's toll must resound, marking the close of one chapter and the trembling birth of another. Yeshua himself spoke of a midnight cry and a watchman's call, words that echo the same rhythm, the warning before the dawn, the toll that cannot be silenced.
If you have come this far, it is crucial that you watch this next video here. But be warned, it is not for the faint of heart, for only the true chosen ones can handle this video. If you would like to also donate to help keep the channel going, our Buy Me a Coffee link will be in the description.